It's Monday, and you know what that means. Jersey First TV proudly brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk, and I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, top 50 Latino, as voted on by the Latino Spirit Online magazine and the United States Latino Affairs Initiative, as well as being the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media. Certainly, folks, the traffic will tell you every single week the people's choice and the people's voice, and without a doubt, the most handsome face that runs the place. It is me, Fernando, Uribe. Happy Monday to you all. I want to thank you all for tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so right now on Facebook Live via StreamYard, also on the Jersey First YouTube page, and certainly, ladies and gentlemen, without question, you know what? On all of our great social media platforms, we appreciate you tuning in the way you do every single week, ladies and gentlemen. And I can't say enough about how much you all enjoy it. And of course, I'm very grateful that you all share it on all the aforementioned platforms. Folks, again, don't forget to like Real Talk with Fernando Uribe on Facebook as well as on Jersey First. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter, both Jersey First TV and, of course, at the Fernando Zone, the same handle. And, of course, for all you YouTube subscribers, I know I watch YouTube every single day for different things. Well, guess what? Click the subscribe button, and you'll be automatically enrolled in all of the great content brought to you by Jersey First. And, of course, wherever you get your podcast on Spotify or SoundCloud, please, of course, make sure you download, with us here. We're just going through some technical difficulties. Just trying to get with some guests here. I'll tell you, folks, sometimes, punctuality with people. But in any event, always check us out on all our great social media platforms. And folks, I cannot say enough about how proud I am to be on the dream team of Garden State Media. That's right. It's always Jersey First TV. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, brand new episodes of The Nader Narrative premiere every Thursday. And of course, hosted by the amazing Elizabeth Nader. And of course, brand new episodes of Bridging the Gap with AJ Malillo and Stephen Rombolo. Of course, those also premiere on Thursdays, and certainly, folks, every Monday night. You can check out brand new episodes of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe via Jersey First TV. Of course, I can't say enough, ladies and gentlemen, without all of you, the traffic that this show generates, all organic, by the way, would not be possible without all of you. Folks, you definitely want to stick around. I have a lot to say during Final Thoughts, really. And, of course, also, folks, I'm rocking pink throughout the month of October as we are here on Jersey First TV. Folks, all I can tell you is we're proud to support the American Cancer Society and making strides against breast cancer. And I'll tell you a little bit more about my annual event coming up later this week to benefit making strides against breast cancer. And folks, again, as I mentioned, you don't want to miss Final Thoughts. I have a lot to say about who's doing a disservice to journalism this week in the state of New Jersey. And two candidates come to mind. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I have a lot to say about Max Pizarro and Tom Moran. You definitely don't want to miss my commentary on both of them. Folks, it's a double main event tonight. It's election season 2 weeks from tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. Conservatives hopefully will come out in big numbers, which isn't always the case during a lot of legislative election seasons, but I'm hoping that is what will happen 2 weeks from tomorrow, folks. Election day. It's really into the final stretch, as they say here in New Jersey. And tonight's double main event will cover a lot of that and much more. Joining me now first, folks, he is a very distinguished Republican strategist, and he's a fan of the show, at least to the best of my knowledge, and he's a good friend of mine, folks. He is Republican strategist Chris Russell. Join us here on Real Talk. Chris, how are you?
Hey, Fernando. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. I know you're very, very busy. 2 weeks from tomorrow, seems like Democrats are running and scrambling for their lives, as we know, with 2 weeks from tomorrow. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But Chris, it's interesting because I get a lot of heat from both sides of the aisle because I just sort of speak my mind on this show. And, what seems like constructive criticism on my part seems to give me some scorn, especially within the NJGOP, who, let's be honest, man, there's a real chance 2 weeks from tomorrow to not just flip like 1 or 2 seats or 1 or 2 districts. We're talking about, and again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, districts like 4, 11, 16, 19, 34, 36, 38. These are very winnable districts for Republicans. I'm just concerned that, well, we all know what possibly could happen. To sort of use a NFL term, it seems like, well, the goal line's right there. either get stopped at the 1 or you fumble the football. I don't want to see that happen 2 weeks from today. What can you tell our viewers tonight about whether or not Republicans have a real chance?
Well, I think you ticked off some districts that I think certainly have a very good chance. I think others are probably a second tier, and that's not to be a knock on anybody. It's just the reality of the case. I mean, all these districts, I think, for your viewers to understand, every single one of these districts we're talking about that are in the ball game for Republicans are districts that Joe Biden won, right? So these are not ruby red areas by any stretch of imagination. Some of them are districts that Jack Chiarelli won in 2021. Some are that he lost narrowly. But yes, I mean, there's certainly competitive seats. I'd say the best, coming off of a very good 2021 for state legislative candidates in New Jersey, where we had significant gains for the first time in many years. There's an opportunity to continue the progress this year. And I would tell you that, not continuing the progress would certainly be a disappointment. Holding serve is not good enough here. We need to be able to pick up seats. You ticked off a couple, District 4, a chance to sweep all 3 of those seats if we can do it with a very good ticket. District 11, Vin Gopal is, escaped by the skin of his teeth in 2021. He's getting a very serious challenge this year. And you talked about some of the seats as we head up north in 16 and 38. These are opportunities for Republicans to take seats. And I think the environment out there, more than anything, is really what gives me great promise. The issues are on our side: parental rights, energy policy, crime. These issues are leading our way, and Joe Biden and Phil Murphy are moving in the wrong direction. So the environment is very promising. It's a resource battle in some of these places, and Democrats have a lot of money, but we have some really good candidates, and I'm hopeful for a good night, in a couple Tuesdays.
Let's talk about some of those issues, Chris. And by the way, folks, it's 6:09 here on the East Coast. Sharon is carrying. Click that share button and let everybody know how much you're enjoying Real Talk here on this Monday night edition. Double main event. First off here, Republican strategist Chris Russell joins me here. We'll have state Senate candidate Maria Garcia later on at the bottom of the hour. Chris, you mentioned some of these issues I think that really resonate with people. And I'm really the only journalist in New Jersey that's really talking about parental rights. And it seems like the liberal establishment media here in the state is kind of poo-pooing the issue, calling people like me, conservatives like me, hysterics or bigots or homophobes or transphobes, as well as other organizations. That's not the case. I don't have any kids that I know of, but I can tell you from talking to parents that, reach out to me daily. This is an issue I think that can win. And case in point, credit to David Wildstein, the editor of the New Jersey Globe. Last week, he published a very startling poll from Fairly Ridiculous University that, should have Democrats, I think, scrambling, especially in a lot of these vulnerable districts. And at the end of the day, you're a parent, Chris. What makes this issue about parental rights so polarizing? Because it seems like this is common sense, but it seems like the left, it seems like the LGBTQ community, and a lot of those hysterics over there on that side of the aisle are trying to paint people like you, me, and others a blankist, a blank phobe. And I just think that's unfair. What's your answer to that?
Well, it's certainly unfair, but nothing's fair in politics, right? And so I think in that sense, yes, they're trying to make it an issue of bigotry and of bias, which, to your point, Fernando, is absolutely not. It's an issue of common sense in a lot of ways. The ridiculousness, if you think about it, that a 5-year-old child in school, if they tell their teacher that a little girl says she wants to be a boy and she wants to be referred to by a different gender, that teacher by law cannot tell her parents. That is insanity, any way you cut it. And I think for Republicans, we need to be able to communicate that message in that clear of a way. Don't get sucked into these battles about whether it's about gay rights or things of that nature. It's not. This is about a bond between a parent and a child, whatever that child is or wants to be or biologically is someday. Who knows? My point is this is about secrets being kept from parents, and the fact that, and I think important for Republicans to point out, it not only puts parents in a terrible position and children, but it puts teachers in a terrible position. Think about this. You have a teacher who knows this issue about this child and their well-being, mental well-being, their emotional well-being, they're struggling, and the last person they're allowed to tell is their parents. I think Republicans need to talk about that in a way that, cuts off the argument the other side makes at the knees that this is somehow about prejudice or hate in any kind of way. It's not. This is an issue about parental rights, an issue about helping these kids and not leaving them on an island where their parents are separated from them.
Chris, again, it's been some time since I was in elementary school, but I mean, last I remember, I mean, if you had to take an aspirin, you needed to get parental permission. I mean, the school nurse couldn't just do that. If you wanted to go on a field trip, you needed a parent's signature on a permission slip. I mean, there are things that seem just, I would say, customary in our public schools. I just find it funny that the emperor, Governor Murphy and his lapdog, the Attorney General Matt Plotkin, have really sort of politicized this issue and painting conservatives or even independents as like, oh, we're not sympathetic to the causes of the LGBTQ community. And let's be honest again, and I can believe in equality and believe in making sure that my friends in that community are not being, marginalized or oppressed or victimized in any way. But by the same token, too, it just seems like the alphabet mob is losing their minds right now about, hey, well, if you don't acquiesce to our demands and the way we think education should be taught in New Jersey, then once again, it's like the low-hanging fruit. And quite frankly, I think they're on the losing side of that.
Well, listen, it's a classic case as you bring up Phil Murphy. I mean, it's government knows best. We know better than you. We know better than parents. We know what these kids need. It's an affront to, I think, parents and others who are not parents, who look at this as a common sense issue. To bleed it into another issue here that's very similar in some ways, the issue of abortion, which is obviously getting a lot of attention. South Jersey Democrats are spending millions of dollars down in South Jersey trying to make abortion the issue of the campaign. To your point about the taking a Tylenol in school, it's absurd if you think about it. And whether you're you consider yourself pro-life, pro-choice, with some restriction or exception, whereas where most people are, it's not a black and white issue in a lot of ways. A lot of people see it as an issue with some gray. You're talking about a state right now where if you're a 15-year-old girl and you want to get your ears pierced, you need a parental signature, a consent of your parents to get your ear pierced. But if you want an abortion, you don't. It's just the absurdity of that. Think about that. You want to go to the mall and get your ears pierced, you need your parents to sign off. But if you want to undergo a serious medical procedure, your parents can be excluded from that. It's absurd. And those are the kinds of things we need to push. And when we want to win these arguments, we can't do it on defense. We have to do it on offense.
Well said, Chris. And it's interesting you bring up reproductive rights and abortion. It infuriates me to no end where so many radicals in Trenton and all these leftist organizations, and I'll be honest, I can say this on the air, it's my show. You'll be the gentleman, you'll take the high road. I am so sick and tired of these feminists in New Jersey, whether it's Planned Parenthood, these organizations, which by the way are subsidized with tax dollars, by the way, folks. So let's not get it twisted here, are sending these mailers out and are trying to really manipulate this election cycle about abortion. Folks, it's been codified into state law, okay? A woman, and again, I say this all the time, okay, if you get knocked up tomorrow, there's no shortage of clinics to go terminate your pregnancy, Chris. If, after a drunken weekend of, watching NFL football or whatever, you need to go get a Plan B, ladies, you can go get one. There's no infringement on abortion rights here in New Jersey. So I just think it's funny when I see these organizations, which again, like Planned Parenthood, which are subsidized with tax dollars, are up in arms and trying to sort of fuel this argument about, abortion's on the ballot. It's not. It just seems like those groups, and I mentioned before, the liberal establishment media, they're more concerned with pronouns than property taxes, Chris. And again, you're not fooling anybody, folks.
Well, listen, I think you're referring somewhat to the editorial this weekend in the Star Ledger, where Tom Moran tried to parse and twist the words of Senator Bucco and Senator Corrado, both people I know well, good people, thoughtful people, trying to do the right thing. And he turned them into, or tried to turn them into something that they're not. I think the issue is, I think we all understand that abortion or reproductive rights is an emotional issue for people. It's an issue that evokes passion. There are people passionate who are very, very pro-life. There's people on the other side who believe it's an issue of personal freedom. The bottom line is, like I said, most people realize there are certain things that we can all agree on. We can all agree on, or you would hope we can all agree on, that we shouldn't be having abortion up to the moment of birth. We shouldn't be having a 15-year-old girl who may be seeking abortion and her parents can't know about it. We should also probably have doctors, not non-doctors, performing these abortions when they have to occur. These seem like very, very common sense, middle of the road. 85% of New Jerseyans can agree. Yet we have certain people in the Democratic Party and certainly in the media who want to be that 15% who are taking this fringe position. So Certainly, it's like you said, it's codified into law right now. That won't change. John DeMaio, the assembly leader, who would be the assembly speaker if we won a majority, has already said that this is not something that's going to change. So Democrats need to talk about these things, Fernando, because they cannot win on parental rights. They cannot win on crime, and they cannot win on energy when they're telling people that in 2035, they're not going to be able to purchase a gas-powered car or stove in the state. These are issues that make them sound insane, so they have to make it about something else.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought up those issues because I think those are really resonating, getting back to the FDU poll with independence, not just parental rights. But Chris, again, we know what far left Democrats do poorly in Trenton. Okay, I don't like to paint with a broad brush. Like where I live in LD 33, my mayor is also my state senator. But Brian Steck is like a reasonable center-left Democrat. He's a blue-collar working-class Democrat. But that's not the case in Trenton. I mean, there's a lot of far-left Democrats running that are just oblivious, I think, to the everyday struggles that New Jerseyans are facing. Again, we know that property taxes are the highest in the country. We know that they spend irresponsibly. We know that the budget is getting fatter than the latest Victoria's Secret models that they're parading out there. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things that we know what they do poorly, but do you feel confident the NJGOP can not just harp on those issues? Because we know that they do that poorly, but is it going to take more? Is it maybe better out? And again, it's 2 weeks to go. So, I mean, I'm not trying to jinx anything, but is it just better outreach where, Hispanics, Asians, I think people of color of all types, I think are seeing the crunch and the irresponsible behavior by the far left Democrats in Trenton. Again, you're a strategist with working with Republican candidates. Do you feel confident that the NJGOP is doing enough to change the message? Again, we all know what they do poorly, but maybe it's time to mix it up a little bit. What are you seeing on the campaign trail, Chris?
Well, listen, I mean, the NJGOP, I think, takes some unfair criticism in a lot of ways. There's been a lot, Bob Hugin has been very upfront and trying to make these the issues of the campaign. Alex Wilkes, who's a tremendous communications person, who's the NJGOP communications director, is constantly harping on these issues. I know they've been helpful in these targeted districts that I'm working in. I can't speak for other districts, but I know that I've been on a conference call where Bob had, candidates from across the state in districts that were slam dunks to places that were very, very difficult, but had them on, giving people a voice. I think the issues have crystallized around the ones that we just talked about. And I think, the other issue is financial. And there have been several, for the first time in New Jersey's history, really, on the Republican side, several outside groups, independent expenditure groups, which have come in and spent real money on behalf of Republican candidates up and down the state, which is important because we were severely outgunned in that over the past decade or more. So I have seen an awakening or a reawakening in a lot of ways of efforts by state Republicans and getting some national help as well to kind of take the fight to the Democrats on these issues. And to your point, there are moderate Democrats, there are common sense Democrats that are out there, but they're the ones whose votes we need. Like I said, in a place like District 4, where we're running with 3 challenger candidates, there are 30,000 more Democrats than Republicans in that district. You're not winning that district just by getting your Republicans. You have to reach out. But to do that, we have a ticket there, a businessman, a public school teacher, and an 825 operating engineer, an African-American man, a young Italian woman, and a businessman, Chris Del Barello, who's the Senate candidate. That's the kind of ticket that attracts across party lines and attracts on these issues. Because on these issues, to me, there's not a big difference between a moderate Democrat and a moderate Republican on issues of parental rights, on energy, and on crime. They see it the same way. Our job is to make sure we explain to them that the people who are the outliers here, the real extremists in this fight, are the Democrats in Trenton, who have gone way, way to the left and way outside the mainstream.
No, they really have. Chris, do you care to elaborate on what the target districts you're working on presently?
Sure. So I work in districts 2 and 4 and 8 with the candidates on the candidate side. So Senator Palestina and the 2 incumbent assemblymen in District 8, Umba and Teresi, and then Latham Tiver, who's our Senate candidate, replacing Gene Stanfield, who's retired. Like I said, Del Barello and Walker and Esposito in 4. And then I'm doing some of that outside work in a couple other districts where I don't get to talk to the candidates because you're prohibited from that when you work on the outside. But where 2 of the others that we mentioned, where I think we have a chance to be successful and make a run at this.
Chris, obviously you're not working for the NJGOP. I mean, obviously you have your own lobbying firm that you work with. tell us a little bit more about sort of the inner workings or the day to day, because one thing is being an operative for a political party per se, like working with the NJGOP, and then one is having your own LLC and working as a strategist in the way that you do. For maybe listen, some of my former students, people out there that are looking to get involved in politics on the communication side, on the strategist side, what are some of the day to day, I think, rigors that involve what you do for a living in your staff?
Well, I mean, listen, a lot of what we do is working with the people who are in these campaigns, whether it be the candidates or the staff members or kind of party leaders on the ground. So, and that's where I got my start. I mean, I worked as a staff kid for campaigns at the county and state legislative level when I first came out of college. So I work with a lot of young men and women like me who did what I did back then. And this time I'm in a different chair. I'm trying to give them advice on how to run the campaign on the ground level. But I spend my day either texting, calling, talking, emailing, whatever, with candidates, with staff, with party leaders who are trying to move the ball in their districts. Because I'm not spending my time in their districts necessarily. I do from time to time, but mostly I work out of our office in Red Bank. And a lot of what we're doing now is, whether it's communication, so it's shaping strategy on a day-to-day basis. For instance, down in South Jersey, your viewers may or may not have seen the Democrats put what amount to fake candidates, phony candidates on the ballot in districts 4.
Saw that, yeah.
And then they're funding them with a super PAC from Jamaica, Queens. And this is what's going on. So two phony MAGA, quote unquote MAGA candidates. One of them is actually a Democrat. They both have ties to the South Jersey Democrats. So this is the kind of stuff we're fighting back on a daily basis, where they're trying to siphon off just enough votes from Republicans to try and steal these seats. But I spend my time talking to them and then helping to put together the advertising they're doing, whether that's their mail, their television, their digital ads. We work on a day-to-day basis, me and my staff, with them and trying to craft those messages and get them out the door while the candidates can go be candidates. I mean, we like to help candidates do the things they should be doing, which is knocking on doors, meeting voters, raising money. We try to pick up some of the stuff that is on the messaging and creative side for them in each of those races.
Chris, I know that when I spoke with you last, you brought up a startling number from 2021. And yes, while it was great to flip some seats in the assembly and ultimately, Ed Durr's historic upset in 2021 and unseating Steve Sweeney, there was still sort of like that black cloud where I think you were the one that mentioned it on the air. I think only 38% of registered Republicans came out to vote in 2021. And it was a little
higher. It was a little higher. It was about 60% of registered Republicans, but still only about 40% of voters overall.
Okay.
And so there certainly was several 100,000 Republicans who didn't show up in 21, who had 100,000 of them showed up, we would have won the governorship. So
just to be clear, only 38% overall turnout in the state, but of registered Republicans, what was the number?
About 60.
Again, Chris, that tribalism that I suspect was going on, that's, I think, is what cost Jack in 2021. And again, I was the only journalist in New Jersey calling that race close. And people say, oh, you're crazy. I said, no, the emperor is really unpopular in a lot of pockets of the state. And I think Jack is resonating, in certain portions. And I like Jack personally, though, Chris, but there's some things, and again, I'm not trying to be a Monday morning quarterback here, but it just seems like there were some things that maybe the campaign could have done better. It seems like that 60% is a representation of how tribal people were about the whole primary process and whether or not Jack was like a Republican that they could get behind or not conservative. All the nonsense I'm sure that you saw, right? Which infuriated me because I'm like, yo, Democrats, when it comes to their elections, if there's a D next to their name, if it's Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck or whoever,
or Bob Menendez
or Herbert, well, Jesus, Herbert, who like they're going to vote. And it just seems like Republicans were so tribalistic that I think it's embarrassing that only 60% came out, because even if maybe let's say 10, 15% more came out to vote, we're talking about Governor Chigarelli now instead of the emperor. And I just think that that's my biggest concern, again, going into 2 weeks from tonight. Are Republicans going to come out? Yes, independents need to come out and really, really resonate with the conservative Republican candidates. But it just seems like I'm concerned Republicans are going to do the same thing again. They'll stay home. Oh, they're not happy. Oh, this person's not conservative enough, or she's not on the same issues I am. I hate this tribalism, because at the end of the day, it seems like the wind is to Republicans' back in 2 weeks. But again, turnout's so crucial.
Well, listen, it's in a lot of ways, it's a numbers game, right? Republicans turned out at a better percentage than did Democrats in 2021. Republicans turn out as a percentage better than Democrats almost every year in New Jersey outside of presidential years. The problem is statewide, there's about 900,000 more Democrats.
Yeah.
So in most of these districts, even many that we have elected legislators, senators, assembly people in, we are at a deficit. So it's not just that we have to turn out as well as the Democrats, we have to turn out better than the Democrats. I mean, for a Republican to win statewide, you need to turn out at a higher rate than Democrats, which we did in 21. You need to win the independents by a significant portion.
Absolutely.
And that's how you can get to 50% plus one. So to me, I'm a big believer going back to the kind of the Reagan mantra of a big tent party. We have to, we can be, if we were living in Alabama or Mississippi, we could be, have purity tests all day long about what kind of Republicans we want to run. We have primaries for that purpose, right? So primaries are going to work themselves out. But after the primary is over, we have to get behind the candidates who are on the ballot. And that if that person agrees with you, you might remember from living up in North Jersey, the old Ed Koch line that if you agree with me 9 out of 12 times, vote for me. If you agree with me 12 out of 12, see a psychiatrist. Republicans.
That's a great line. That's a great line there.
But we need to look at it that way. So if you look at the ballot and you, as a Republican, and you say, hey, listen, this guy checks the box for me on 7 out of 10 issues, then go vote for the guy. Yes. The idea that you're going to stay home because 3 to 10 don't jive with you, that's ridiculous and it's self-defeating.
I agree with you. Speaking about purity tests and sort of, again, the tribalism that exists and sort of the tent and the party statewide, though, Chris, I know you've been very vocal about other Republicans that are big names in the state or attempted to become big names, and they're out there in the public arena. I think you probably know where I'm going with this, but it seems like NJ 101.5 FM radio host Bill Speedia has been very vocal in his criticism about the way Republicans are campaigning. We see that obviously he's going around the state, helping certain candidates campaign. It seems like there's still some friction within the NJGOP between, for example, again, the hierarchy, maybe Bill Speedia, maybe other Republicans. Is this something that's reparable going into 2024 and 2025 where, listen, I hope Republicans can flip some seats in 2 weeks. Having said that, you want that momentum into 2025. Right. Jack hasn't announced formally yet. It seems like he's going to at some point. He'll be the inevitable candidate. It seems maybe like Bill Speedia might be too. Is there a concern for you as a strategist that this sort of friction, again, will contribute to the tribalism that exists in the GOP in New Jersey?
No, listen, like I said, there'll be a primary, just like there's a primary for the presidency, the presidential nomination. There'll be a primary, I'm sure, for governor in 25, and that's fine. I don't have any issues with primaries per se. The issue, and I'll be very blunt, the issue with Bill Speedia was in 2021, he was on the radio telling people don't vote for Chitterelli. This is a guy who's supposed to be a Republican. He's supposed to be a conservative, and he was actively using his bully pulpit to help reelect Phil Murphy. I do have a problem with that. And I think in terms of his potential.
What was the reason, Chris? You'd
have to ask him. In that sense, you'd have to ask him. I think I wouldn't want to feel like I can get into his head. But in that sense, that, it's tough to deny because it's on the radio. The audio is there. Okay. If he wanted Phil Murphy gone, he should have helped, not been a hindrance. So in that sense, that I think is a problem. And I think, my issue with Speedia more so is that he's one of those guys that if you don't agree with him 12 out of 12 times, he doesn't want you to see a psychiatrist, right? So to me, he's someone who's a small tent guy, and I think we need to be big tent. And that's the biggest issue I have. I think we need to reach out to more voters as opposed to being insular.
To your point, obviously Republicans have shaved a little bit into that registration number where before it was like over 1 million. Now it's under 1,900,000. It'd be nice to see that number shaved even more down going into next year in 2025, collectively. Having said that, what's interesting to me though, Chris, is it seems like we're living still in this climate where Republicans, whether it's a primary process or anything else, going into 2 weeks from tomorrow, and then going to 24 and 25 respectively, it seems like the big tent theory or the paradigm would be the best course of action for Republicans. Are you confident that can materialize? Because it just seems like right now there are pockets of the state that aren't happy, let's say, with Bob Hugin or Alex Wilkes, right? Like, at the hierarchy of the NJGOP. What words of comfort can you give conservatives, Republicans, independents 2 weeks from today about, hey, listen, they're doing their best. They're trying their best. They're trying to get money from DC. They're trying to be judicious in what districts to support and everything else. What words of comfort can you give people that maybe are still on the fence and aren't sure whether or not the NJGOP is all in 2 weeks from tomorrow?
Well, I mean, listen, I can't convince people to believe something that they don't want to believe. So, in that sense, if people have to understand it and dig into it a little bit themselves. I mean, we as Republicans, if we unite behind these issues and unite behind these candidates, we can be successful. And if we win, then we get to govern. I think the issue is, sometimes and this is in every business, right? There's armchair quarterbacks, there's, whatever. I would just tell everybody, get in the game, replace the talk with action, go out, work for these Republican candidates, even if you're not 100% on board with everything they believe. That's just not a realistic strategy to be successful in a state that is, we're outnumbered and outgunned. We have to get behind the best possible the candidate, the conservative who can win. Is kind of the mantra we have to pick up. And if you're off, you don't like someone on one issue or another, you got to get past it. And again, this is the right to vote and who you vote for is very sacred. Yeah. I understand that. And so I'm not going to try to pretend like I know better or I'm smarter than anybody else out there. But I do know the numbers are the numbers. And if we decide that we're going to cut our nose off to spite our face on a constant basis, then we're going to get what we get. And I would just encourage those people to understand that, if you're not happy or you want to see some change, be a part of that change. Don't just be in the peanut gallery, throwing spitballs at people. Get in the game, help out, do something in your neck of the woods that can make a difference, whatever that may be. And I think if we did that as Republicans collectively, we would be in a much better position and could win more despite the numbers we have here in the state. So that's it. Listen, I'm not here to defend anyone personally in that regard. Everyone can do more. Everyone can do their best. But I would just tell people in this regard, these issues are important. And to the extent we let small differences get between us, we end up with these terrible policies and these far left lawmakers who are good for none of us. So if you get out there and you find someone who's with you on 7 to 10, go give them 100% of your time and your vote.
No, that makes sense. Chris, real quick here. I know up here in Hudson County where I live, it's as blue as Windex. I know that the county chair up here in Hudson County got a little vitriol online. It seems like one of the state Senate candidates up here where I live in LD 33 doesn't have a Republican challenger. The only challenger on the ballot is the candidate from the Socialist Workers Party. And it seems like, Hudson County Republican chair Jose Arango got a little vitriol online for supporting a Democrat. Is that more a reflection about, hey, that shouldn't be happening? Or let's be fair, because, a lot of people call me a stack boy and a stack defender, but he's one of those guys that, let's be fair, he's very accessible. He's not like one of these legislators. You have to jump through 5 hoops just to get an email conversation or a phone call. That's not the case with State Senator Stack. He's very transparent. He's out there for the community. He's very accessible, not just as mayor, but state senator. It just seems like, again, is that an example of just tribalism where, okay, there's not a Republican candidate, but the Republican chair in the county sees the good work, the long hours, the work ethic of someone like Brian Stack and endorses him, but he still gets some vitriol online. Is that fair?
Well, listen, if you're in politics today, and I know you know it as well, given your perch, getting vitriol online is like the sun coming up, right? It happens. Yeah. It happens to all of us.
Yeah, every day. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. So I saw that story today. I don't know all the ins and outs. Hudson County politics has not been my bailiwick, so I don't know everything going on there. But if the question just in any regard is, if you have a very difficult district where a Republican is unlikely to be successful, which is certainly the case up in a place like 33.
Yeah.
If you can get a moderate Democrat as opposed to a socialist,
absolutely,
you take the moderate Democrat, right? I think we as Republicans would love to have 80 seats in the Assembly and 40 seats in the Senate. It's not going to happen, right? Yes. That's not reality. So we should get out of this fantasy land, face reality. And in that case, I can see the argument for why it would be good to have the more centrist Democrat as opposed to the far left one. As it relates to the stuff, the inner workings of the Hudson County GOP, I wouldn't want to comment because I don't know much more than that. But I think you're right. Overall, like sometimes you take what you can get in this regard. And in this case, if you have someone you can work with and you can get things done who's not an ideologue and a lunatic, then you work with them.
Absolutely. I mean, again, that's, I think, what Senator Stack does better than anybody really in the state. Chris, 2 weeks from from tomorrow, excuse me, it's election day. Early voting starts, I think, next weekend or this weekend. As a matter of fact. This
28th,
weekend.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. This weekend, Halloween weekend. Certainly vote by mail is still, that's not going anywhere. And certainly voting in person election day, obviously, I really encourage everyone to do. As succinct as you possibly can. We know that, the far left Democrats are making New Jersey unaffordable. They're trying to tell us what cars to drive, what stoves to have in our homes. They're oblivious to wildlife washing up dead on our shores, on our beaches. It seems like the message is clear 2 weeks from tonight. It'd be great to send a message to the emperor and make the last parts of his term as uncomfortable as possible. Realistically, I mean, I'm a gambling guy. I go on FanDuel and DraftKings. I like to bet on my NFL. Any odds here you want to put on realistically seats that can be won by Republicans 2 weeks from tomorrow night, Chris?
I think what you'll see is if there's going to be a wave, Fernando, in our direction, it's going to start in the South and it's going to go up the state. I think that's what you want to look for. If you see wins down in 2, 3, 4, 8, and then look to 11 next. If we win 11, then look to 16, look to 16, look to 38. I think that's how it will go. I think our best chances for flips are in the South, and then it gets tougher as you go north. As you know, it's just more blue up there. But I think that's where we'll go. And I feel like the environment for the first time, and I you were right. You were one of the few people in 21 who kind of felt that out there and knew Jack was going to be in the ball game. We did inside the campaign, but I think a lot of people are caught by surprise, and it was a good night for us. Again, wish we won the governor's race, but we won a lot of seats down ballot. I think this year that momentum, that environment is more palpable than even that back then. So I feel good about our opportunities.
Chris, 34, 36 to 38, winnable, or is it going to be a crapshoot 2 weeks from tomorrow night?
I think of those three, 38 is your best chance. But again, if we start winning these seats, like I said, if you see wins in 4, 11, and 16, then anything can happen.
I hope that's the case. I'd like to see a redder legislature, but one step at a time and one election at a time. Chris, before I let you go, I want to thank you. Always a gentleman to come on. It's a busy season for you. Are you going to the League of Municipalities by any chance?
I probably will. I'll probably be down there. So if I'll be down there, I'll catch up with you.
Let's grab a drink. And you're always a gentleman. I appreciate you believing in Jersey First and Real Talk with Fernando. Folks, he's Chris Russell, esteemed Republican strategist. He's very busy 2 weeks from tomorrow night. He's looking to make a difference and flip some seats in the state of New Jersey. Chris, thank you so much for joining us here on Jersey First TV.
Thanks, Fernando.
Folks, great segment there with Chris Russell, working hard during this election season. And listen, Chris is right. There's a lot of districts down south, and that's really what's going to start, right? Essentially getting some of those districts to flip in South Jersey, and maybe it could sort of, flow upwards, as they say, which is not always the case, right? But certainly I think there's great opportunities for Republicans, especially in South and Central Jersey, to flip those seats from like radical Democrats in the legislature that, again, seem to be more concerned with property taxes. And with pronouns instead of property taxes. You know what I'm saying? Like that's their priority, or making sure that they acquiesce to woke causes in Trenton, to make sure that for some reason now parental rights don't matter, and that for some reason parents, don't deserve to know what's going on in their kid's school district. I mean, newsflash, folks, property taxes pay for school districts. So when parents want to go to school board meetings and voice objections to A, what's in curriculums, B, the methodology that some school districts are enacting, you know what? You're damn right that parents have every right to speak up, and it doesn't make them bigots. It doesn't make them transphobes. It doesn't make them homophobes. It doesn't make them whatever you want to call it, folks. Again, the far left and all these advocacy groups, and we all know who they are, and even these propagandists, right? Let's be honest, and they're masquerading as journalists, but we all know who the propagandists are in New Jersey, in the liberal establishment media, right? We all know the news sites, and I'll delve into that a little bit more later as to who should be excoriated every single week, because they're not doing everyday New Jerseyans any type of service. Okay, 2 weeks from tomorrow night, folks, you have an option. Early voting starts this weekend. Vote by mail is still going on. Ballots are being mailed. Okay, that's the thing. It's not just Republicans getting out to vote. It's about convincing independents that New Jersey's headed down the wrong path. And when we have radical ideologues like State Senator Zwicker, okay, and Teresa Ruiz, and those state senators in South Jersey, okay, those are the people that need to go. Those are the people that need to be given the boot during early voting, during vote by mail, and obviously on election day. And that's where common sense can just make its way back to New Jersey, where common sense can make its way back to Trenton. Because more times than not, folks, it seems like you're more worried, again, for all the aforementioned I just named, and some other state senators in Trenton, in Central and South Jersey, that somehow think it's okay to, do away with plastic bags, because plastic bags is the most serious threat right now facing our environment in New Jersey. Okay? And that's the thing. It's your opportunity, folks, to change the landscape of the legislature. There are a lot of winnable districts in Central and South Jersey, both in the state assembly and the state senate. But it's up to you, folks. It's up to conservatives, it's up to Republicans, and it's up to independents now more than ever to get out and vote. Send a message to the emperor, to his little lapdog, Matty Platkin, the attorney general, who clearly slept through constitutional law when he went to law school, clearly. Send a message to these clowns. Send a message and tell them that, what? Parents have rights. Taxpayers have rights. Homeowners have rights. We're tired of being minimized and marginalized. That's the case that you can make, folks, on election day coming up in less than 2 weeks. And one of the winnable races also, folks, again, coming up into our second half of tonight's double main event, one of the more winnable races as well is down also in Central Jersey, folks. It's in Legislative District 19. And guess what? She's a great candidate, and I'm looking forward to seeing her being sworn in as the next state senator in LD19, folks. She's my guest tonight, the second half of tonight's double main event. She's Maria Garcia. Join us here on Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. Maria, how are you?
Hi, Fernando. How you doing?
Good to see you on here. And Maria, tú eres cubana, right?
Yo soy española, casada con cubano.
Oh, there you go. That's a great mix. My grandfather was born in Spain. My mom and my aunt are Cubans. So I'm as cubaniche as it comes, folks, in New Jersey media. So it's good to have you, Maria. And folks, if you're not familiar with the 19th Legislative District, it is a district that includes multiple municipalities in Middlesex County, which includes the cities of Carteret, Perth Amboy, Sayreville, South Amboy, and Woodbridge Township. A very Hispanic district, to say the least, one that has changed a lot along socioeconomic lines for sure. So, Maria, I appreciate you joining us here on the show. I'm not sure how much you were able to listen to the prior guest, obviously Republican strategist, talking about districts that are winnable. Republicans have a real chance, Maria, in 2 weeks.
I believe.
So tell us more about your campaign and why are you running?
The reason that we are running, myself and my two teammates, is because right now we have noticed that we're losing our rights.
Yeah.
We're losing our parental rights, and we're losing our constitutional rights. The Democrats have done something right now that is unconscionable. They are taking the place of the parents, and they're trying to dictate to us what we should do or not do with our children. I don't know if you have heard of this bill that they have proposed. Is A5180, which they will vote after the elections for sure.
Sure.
Which says that if your child from the age of 13 to 18 wants to change sex and you say no because it's a child, that the government will come to your house and remove that child from your care. It doesn't specify where they're going to send the child to, but it does says that they're going to start the treatment with hormones to stop the growth of the child. And that the taxpayers will also pay for the sex change. There's also another bill that was proposed. It was endorsed by Joseph Vitale. Is S3871,
Okay.
which lowers the age of consent to 13 years old. Why would they do that? This bill states that a child, if they get raped and they get venereal diseases, that the child can go to any clinic and seek treatment without the consent or the knowledge of the parents. My question is why? Why the parents are being kept out of all of this? What is it that they're trying to do to our families? What are they trying to do to our children? We need to
Maria,
stop this.
no, Maria, I agree with you. And again, your candidacy and your platform really interests me because I know, like you and other conservatives and other candidates that are out there, you've really been harping on parental rights and our freedoms. And I know that during the summer, I know your campaign team and obviously your running mates in the assembly ticket as well have been going to town halls, been going to festivals during the summer. You've been going to events. You really have been emphasizing these points, and I applaud you for that.
Mhm.
Having said that, I mean, again, we look at, the incumbents right now, and I don't ever like to give incumbents like them any attention or any name calling, or anything like that. But we know that the state senator there in LD 19 just reminds us of a career politician. He's been in Trenton way too long. He's
25 years.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, that was like, I think I had hair back then. Okay, that's how long he's been in office. I mean, it's crazy. And I'm looking at numbers here in the district. Obviously, it's a very heavily Democratic registration type district. I'm looking at numbers here. About 45% of registered voters are Democrats. Only 15% are Republicans. But here's the big number, just like Chris Russell, the strategist, mentioned before. Almost 40% of the voters in that district are independents. And I think that now more than ever, just like that poll from Fairleigh Dickinson University said last week, and again, shout out to David Wastine, the editor of the New Jersey Globe, for publishing that, it seems like independents now are just as angry as anybody else about parental rights, about what Governor Murphy, Attorney General Matt Plotkin are doing, and what like the far left, crazy left Democrats in Trenton want to do to New Jersey. It seems like Murphy, Plotkin want to make New Jersey the California of the East. And by the way, has anybody seen what a mess California is? So why does anybody want that?
I I have been going door to door for many months, and you will be surprised how many Democrats are also against all this lunacy that is coming from Trenton.
Yeah.
Especially in the Hispanic community.
Yes.
We are very conservative. And not only are we conservative, they are very religious. And one thing that we have, nobody can touch our children. And right now, that's what they're messing with, our children. And I have had a lot of support from all kinds of people, from Democrats to independents, to unaffiliated Republicans. When I tell them about these bills, when I explain to them what they're doing, and they can't believe it, because a lot of the people that we are reaching at and to, they don't even know that these things are going on because they are so busy with their lives. Some of them, they have to work 2 jobs to survive in this state. It is impossible to survive nowadays. So many senior citizens that I'm talking to, they had to sell their homes because they couldn't afford it anymore. And now here comes the Democrats telling them, oh, we're going to give you the anchor, not the anchor program, the Stay in New Jersey program, but not until 2026. My question is, if you really believe that these senior citizens need the help, why do you have to wait until 2026? Why not giving it to them now?
Maria, I'm glad you brought that up because I always laugh about the anchor program and how much Murphy and his cabinet talk about, well, the anchor program is a great program. I'm glad we can make it available. Newsflash, folks, it's your tax dollars.
It is.
you're basically getting your tax money back. So this idea that the emperor and the minions around him are trying to sell us this boberia that the anchor program is relief for you. No, it's your tax money that you paid anyway. So I just find it funny that people are just eating up this nonsense from the governor and from some of the leadership in Trenton, like, oh, we're doing you a favor. No,
they're not.
Like we're doing you a favor with the tax dollars that we're giving you. So that just, como se dice, eso a mí me encabrona. I have no idea, because it's like you're insulting my intelligence. And by the way, there's way too much intelligence here. So it drives me crazy, Maria.
Well, what is happening right now, if you really follow politics, they use this every election year.
Yep.
Okay. They use the same things over and over again. And I feel that they think that the people are stupid. And we are not. We're catching on to all their tricks. As you were saying, the anchor program, they take thousands of dollars from us every year. I mean, $20,000, $20,000, $30,000, who knows how much money they take from us. And then they said, oh, by the way, you have to apply now to get $1,500 back of your money. And this $1,500 is not of this past year, it's of 2 years ago. So they have taken $1,500 of our money, they put it in the bank, okay, collecting interest. Now we have to go through, put in an application, see if, the king accepts that we should get it back or not. And then they're going to spend all these millions of dollars in sending that money back to us.
No,
it's a game. It's a game that they play.
It's crazy. And I think also too, what really bothers me is I think that during this election season or any election season, like as I mentioned to Chris Russell earlier, like the liberal establishment media doesn't do their homework enough or isn't talking about these issues. Again, we have, and I don't care if this gets me in trouble because I say whatever I want on this show. We have fake ass Latinos as journalists out there focusing on nonsense like pronouns and, referring to people as migrants. No, like they're illegals. All the other virtue signaling nonsense, and other journalists that should be talking about this is a scam. Anchor program, eso basura. Like we're just getting our tax dollars back, or not focusing in on, again, the issues that matter: spending, property taxes. Like what's going on with, listen, if it wasn't for the mainstream media covering this, like look what's going on in New York City. Like the mayor wanted to send illegals to New Jersey, and I mean the Milagro, the emperor was like, no, hold on a second. I love illegals, and New Jersey's a sanctuary state, but wait a second, we can't take everybody in. And I just think it's funny because it's people like him, it's people like all these fake ass journalists, fake ass Latinos that are in journalism that don't get angry and say, what are you doing? What are the Democrats doing in Trenton to fix this? It just seems like they're like, oh, they're just clapping and whatever, but they're not really trying to be proactive and ask the questions that need to be asked. It drives me crazy, Maria. I'm sure for you as a candidate, también.
Well, Fernando, the thing that I don't understand about the Hispanic journalists is that they will support illegal immigration, because we know how many women get raped on the way here, how many children die. Why would you want that for your people? Why would you want that your people get here illegally and then they're going to be exploited? Because that's what happens. They get in jobs and sometimes they don't even get paid, okay? Because they're illegal, so they get exploited. So why are these journalists supporting that? Instead of saying, what we need to do is to change the way that immigration is happening right now. And but they don't, because the problem that we have now is that we have had children that have been indoctrinated in our colleges, and it seems that they cannot think for themselves. They only repeat the ideology that has been given to them without thinking. For example, this is a sanctuary state. But they never thought how much it's going to cost the government to take thousands of people all at once. Now New York City is running short in money that they can be given to help citizens of New York. New Jersey did not want so many of them here because we don't have the money for it. So these people are only about ideology, but they never think about the consequences. And that's why we need to have people in power that think, that analyze situations, that understand that it's not, oh, because I want the same thing with the gender situation.
Correct.
They eliminated genders, okay? So there's no he, there's no she. But then they put a law for transgenders. But if there's no genders, why there's a law for transgenders? There's just think about it. It makes no sense.
Listen, you're absolutely correct. And to your previous point, I mean, again, it's whether it's legislators, far left legislators, the enablers in the liberal media. It's funny how like all these fake ass Latino journalists that will be with the super accent cuando le conviene. All these activist organizations, and we all know, and listen, and I don't mind calling them out because they're all trash, right? Because it seems like they're so preoccupied with ideology, and we all know who they are. We have organizations like I'm just trying to remember, the New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice. I mean, people like Amy Torres, their executive director, or other organizations like Patricia Campos Medina. When it comes to economics, they're like, like no saben nada. They want to be there clapping, oh, yay, illegals.
Well, I have a lot of problem with an organization that says for Latino women, but they don't allow any Latina Republicans in it. So it's not for Latina women. It is for Latina Democrat women. Yeah. If it was for Latina women, they will accept all Latinas, but they don't do that.
Yeah. You know what? I'm glad you brought that up. Like Latina Civic is a perfect example. You want to empower Latinas. No. You want to empower Latinas que te conviene. Like far left, liberal women don't know about biology, don't know about economics, don't know about science, pero te lo va a decir que las mujeres. No, either be all about mujeres, like conservative, independent, liberal, whatever, or don't be about it at all. At least be honest, because what they're doing in all these organizations, es toda la misma basura. If they're being dishonest, because they don't care about conservatives. All they care about is ideology, and that ideology is killing the state of New Jersey economically, socially, religiously. Como tú quieres decirlo, they're killing New Jersey.
They're killing New Jersey, and it's all about, like I said, it's all about ideology, but they don't understand their own ideology and the harm that it will do. Because as you say, most of them have no clue about economics. They have no clue about the Constitution. They have no clue about law and order. They're just clueless. They just repeat things that they've been told that sounds good, but they don't seem to measure, okay, if we do this, what will happen in the future or in the present? And
Absolutely. Maria, let me ask you, I'm pulling for you 2 weeks from tonight. I really want you, and I'm not saying this to be disrespectful, but I'm really pulling for you in the upset. A lot of people think that you winning would be an upset. I'm pulling for you and your ticket.
Thank you.
Should you be successful, and I hope you are, on January 1st when you take office, what do you want to tackle in the 19th legislative district? I mean, I'm looking at these towns, Carteret, Perth Amboy, Sayreville, South Amboy, Woodbridge. It would seem like infrastructure, taxes, that's the first thing that comes to mind. But what do you want to tackle should you win on November 7th and then take office?
What I want to tackle first is to stop these bills that are taking our parental rights. And also, I want to tackle anything that has to do with wasting our taxpayers' money. I personally would like to have an audit to find out where is our money going, because I I don't understand how the state of New Jersey, with the trillions of money that they get, they always are begging for our money. When is it going to stop? Where is all this money going? I give you a perfect example. They closed us down for 2 years during
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah.
Okay. Many lost their business. Many lost their jobs because of the vaccines and everything else. Once they open, what is it the first thing that they did? They raised the tolls. Why did they raise the tolls?
Yeah.
There was no traffic for 2 years on our roads. Why did they raise it? They don't care. They they just don't care about us. They don't care that we are stretched to the max. And I want to know where all our money is going.
Well, I'll tell you, Maria. I mean, they're going to give money for illegals. The alphabet mob, and the pronoun patrol. They need to get their share because they want their programs being funded and everything else. And I could just listen. I'm not an accountant, but I could just tell you right there. Those are three categories. I'm pretty sure millions of dollars are
Well,
going to.
there is also duplication of programs. If you really start looking, there's
Yeah.
duplication of programs. So we should start looking at the programs that are successful and the ones that are not, and start eliminating those that are not.
Yeah.
Right now, our children are behind in school because after COVID, what happened?
Yeah.
So why aren't we investing in trying to get these children ahead? No, what we are doing right now in the state of New Jersey, we're introducing sex education that is not age appropriate for them.
Yeah. That's
So,
right.
and wasting again money on things that are not important right now. We need reading, writing, mathematics, science, and history to be taught, and to be taught in the school the right way, not the way that they want to teach it, which
Sure.
which is dumbing down our children. And when you dumb down children, they grow up to be easily manipulated. And that's what I think that they're trying to do.
It's also propaganda. I think
It
that
is.
the NJEA, one of the worst unions that exist in the United States, are constantly in bed with crazy left Democrats in Trenton. They basically steal membership dues from teachers every single year to fund their PACs, to fund their agenda and the ideology. Like, I wish I was president of the NJEA, making $100,000 just ahí, tú sabes, comiendo memelada. I can't say the other word because it's a family show, but están ahí comiendo memelada every single day. And the executive board, and who's suffering? Teachers,
The teachers,
administrators, and the students and parents. So I just think it's a really, I think it's a scam in the sense of how much enabling we see in Trenton from unions, whether it's the NJEA, CWA, the AFT, all these. Again, I understand the importance of unions, but at the same time, what you're doing with membership dues and putting them in a PAC, for example, and then blatantly supporting candidates that support your far left agenda, that has to stop. And I'm hoping that, again, people like yourself getting elected can put some accountability on the NJEA. Let me ask you this, Maria. You have two great running mates. Tell us a little bit very quickly about your two running mates.
Marilyn Colon is a great running mate. She has been really essential in Woodbridge to reach out to people in her area. She has a great heart. She's a very knowledgeable woman. She works for a pharmaceutical company, and she has a lot to give. Sam Raval is going to be very, very important for us in Middlesex County because he has a really good outreach for the Indian community. He knows them. He works with them very well. And there's a large Indian community in Middlesex County that need representation. And I don't think that right now they have the right representation. and Sam will be a very good representative of them.
Maria, again, I apologize. I mean, there might be some technical difficulties here. Verizon Fios.
Oh.
Speaking of basura, add one more to the state of New Jersey and Verizon Fios. But I appreciate you on the show here. Before I let you go, again, you're an inspiring story. Certainly, I know that you immigrated here from Spain, correct?
The story is this: my mother met my stepfather that came from Cuba to Spain back in the 70s. You know that most of the Cubans that were leaving Cuba, they were going to Spain. So they met
Yep.
and they got together. I have my sister is half sister. And my stepfather, of course, like all the Cubans, wanted to come to the United States. So we came to the United States. I came here when I was 10 years old. The Cuban community of Flushing, Queens took us. My mom, my sister, and I came first, and then my stepfather came after us. And I have lived in Flushing, Queens. I live in the South Bronx. I live in Newark, New Jersey, West New York. Went to school there, North Bergen, and Perth Amboy. So I have been all over. So I know a lot of different, how can I say, different areas of the state, and I know the pulse of every area, and how great, New Jersey can be if we do it the right way. If we stop overtaxing the people, if we leave the people alone to live their lives. And that's what I want right now, for us
Maria,
to be left alone.
Listen, I think you make a lot of sense, and I think you're a great candidate down in LD19. Maria, before I let you go, any websites, any social media handles, anything you want to share with our audience tonight? Again, 2 weeks from tomorrow, folks, you have choices in LD19, and right here, Maria Garcia, she's one of them. She's a good choice for you. What are some websites, social media handles that you could tell our audience tonight?
Our website is New Jersey Deserves Better. And you can look in my Facebook, Maria Garcia for Senate 19 is my Facebook page.
Now, let me ask you this, though. Again, you're a great story. Certainly, I know that you're hitting the campaign running for some time. You've been knocking on doors. What's been the best experience for you right now during this campaign season? Whether you're phone banking, whether you're sending out mailers, going to food festivals, whatever, Halloween parties, whatever the case may be. What's been the best experience for you during this campaign season?
My best experience is meeting people. I love to go door to door and talk to people. Sometimes, we get into a long conversations, and then I have to say, I will come back later because I have to reach other people. But I love going door to door in the festivals. We were at the Ceraville Day Festival.
Okay.
And we reach a lot of people on that festival too. And we had a lot of connections there. So that is my main goal. Talking to people, giving them information, and connecting with them, because I love to talk. I love to talk to people and see what it is that they need, what is it that they are concerned about, and connecting with them and saying, hey, we need a change, and I will be there for you. Because unlike the present representatives that we have, which I have been told that people call them for help, they never receive a phone call back. They've been there for 25 years. They've been there for 19 years, 10 years, and they cannot pick up the phone and call the constituent back and find out what is going on. That would not be Maria Garcia. Maria Garcia will be there for you. Maria Garcia will be going and having town hall meetings before anything like this, okay, is passed. because I represent the people. This is the problem that we have nowadays, that our government has forgotten that they work for the people. We don't work for them. Okay?
I'll tell you.
And that's what I want to bring back. That I am the representative of the people and for the people.
Baya, she said it perfectly. Folks, she is state Senate candidate Maria Garcia. Again, folks, you have options on November 7th. She's a good one down there. Her and her ticket down there in LD19. Certainly, listen, some fresh blood, some new blood, some fresh faces I think we need in Trenton. It starts in LD19 with Maria Garcia and her amazing ticket. Folks, you have options again on November 7th. Maria, que Dios te bendiga.
Gracias.
Keep up the good work. And by the way, should you win on November 7th and you take office in January, yo espero que tú regresas, right? Like tú
of course, I will be here again.
Okay.
Anytime that you want me.
Okay, I'll reach out porque yo te voy a llamar y voy a decir, oye, you gotta come back, okay?
I will be back, and I pray that we win because we need a change. We need a change, and we need a change fast before they destroy the state, they destroy our families, and they destroy our children. We need a change.
Well said. Once again, folks, she is state Senate candidate down in LD19, Maria Garcia, our guest tonight on the second half of this evening's double main event here on Real Talk with Jersey First TV. Maria, cuídate. We'll talk to you again soon here.
Thank you very much.
Cuídate.
Thank you for having me. Igualmente. Bye.
Folks, great episode here. Two great guests here again at the top of the hour. It's a little after 7 here on the East Coast. Chris Russell, great Republican strategist there. Excellent conversation breaking down the competitive districts here. Again, 2 weeks from tomorrow night, election day, the final showdown, as they say, here in the state of New Jersey, and certainly a great candidate in the 19th legislative district running for the state Senate there, Maria Garcia. Great, great stuff here, folks. As always, every single week, I bring the exclusives that nobody else really brings you, and I'm really doing the work that other journalists fail to do every single week. You know, some of them are just too busy sitting on their front porch in the woods, smoking weed every day, petting, cats, I don't know, getting out of bed at noon and whatever, or others are just smoking weed all day, airing their grievances, how bad their lives are. You will all know, folks, those journalists, who they are, but that's not the case here, folks. We're working hard every single week here on Jersey First TV. Ladies and gentlemen, before I call it a night, it's time for final thoughts. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, there's no shortage during this election season of people who do us a disservice every single week in journalism. And of course, you would think in an election cycle where real issues matter, parental rights, property taxes, not pronouns, okay? Wildlife washing up on our shores, dead during the summer months, the budget, once again, being fatter than some of the ladies they're employing at Victoria's Secret these days to market their lingerie and underwear. Okay, these are the issues that really matter every day for people. The kitchen table issues, right? Not virtue signaling, not writing up power lists let's be honest, folks, if you need a cure for insomnia, you can read them and that should put you to sleep right away. It does for me every single week. And, it is late October, and certainly a couple of journalists come to mind right now in the sense of who are doing all of us a disservice during this election cycle. And, first one that comes to mind, really in New Jersey. And I know Halloween isn't until next week, but certainly, you can always rely on Max Pizarro to be a cowboy every single day, right? But Maxie, once again, with some of the gibberish he puts out there for columns, talking about really, as Democrats are trying to hang on to their seats, especially in vulnerable districts like Central and South Jersey, respectively, talking about, what this election cycle means. And I'm not going to bore you with some of the columns here, right? Or a lot of what's going on here. But what's really, really interesting here is he talks about the Democratic ticket down in LD16, obviously looking to sweep, not just grab a seat. But the dynamics make the contest capable of producing any combination of outcomes, right? So he talks about the Democratic ticket led by State Senator Andrew Zwicker, a far-left, clueless Democrat in Trenton who somehow thinks the plastic bag ban was okay. And somehow, I don't know, he's a grown man, and maybe he missed high school biology when they taught it in high school, whenever he took it, right? With some of the woke nonsense that Andy likes to subscribe to, right? Talk about reinforced by fellow incumbent Assemblyman Roy Fryman in the potential with a projected low turnout election cycle to highlight a team's commitment to protecting a woman's right to choose. And again, I just have to laugh when Maxie thinks that publishing garbage like this is going to sway people, or that somehow trying to portray Andy in this light that, oh my God, abortion is on the ballot, as I talked about with Chris Russell earlier. And it seems like Maxie, maybe that cowboy hat is on too tight, whatever, or the turtleneck is cutting off circulation to his brain. I don't know what it is about Maxie, but it's really, really funny that you would think that, again, in a cycle where New Jerseyans are leaving in droves, the state continues to become unaffordable, that somehow Max Pizarro wants to insult your intelligence, folks, and tell you that coming up on November the 7th or during early voting or vote by mail, that somehow a woman's right to choose, right, is under duress, right? A woman's right to choose. You know, if you ask Max Pizarro, I mean, I would love to ask him, hey, Max, can you identify what a woman is? Because I'm pretty sure he subscribes to the same woke nonsense that a lot of the other people at Insider NJ do as well, right? But more on that later, all right? So he goes on in here, but, you know, obviously, you know, tries to talk about, makes mention about the FDU poll last week that says it's making Democrats squirm as they consider the boiled down dynamics of the cycle and what Republicans penetrating on schools means to incumbent security. No, it's not boiled down dynamics, Max. Independents specifically are concerned about the direction the state is going in. I mean, you're a parent, right? Right? I mean, you have a kid, don't you? Right? Aren't you concerned about what goes on in her school? And don't you as a parent have the legitimate right to object to something maybe that you don't agree with? Again, because it's your child? Why aren't you writing about that? Again, you're a parent. I would think that Max Pizarro, as a single parent, would want to, you know, put that out there and emphasize the importance of parental rights. I mean, I'm not surprised he's a single parent. I mean, can you imagine being married to this guy? I can't. But having said that, it's funny to me what Insider NJ wants to project to you, the readership, the viewers, right? Again, getting back to this nonsense about somehow painting Andy Zwicker, and his assembly candidates, right, the incumbents, about how important a woman's right to choose is in New Jersey. Max, what you should be telling readers, and again, this is where you continue to be dishonest, but what else is new with Max Pizarro? Okay? As Chris Russell and I talked about, a woman's right to choose has been codified into state law. So once again, okay, and I get it that you get money from Planned Parenthood for your powerless and advertising. So I get it. You're not going to go after Planned Parenthood because that would require you to be honest. We all know you're not, right? As well as the hierarchy at Insider NJ that blatantly lie to you by telling you that they're an independent news site, which when they're not, when they're blatantly taking money from organizations like the NJEA and Planned Parenthood. Okay, listen. Here's where Professor Uribe is going to give everyone an education, especially the clowns at Insider NJ. Okay, guys, reproductive rights and choice have been codified into state law. So if a woman gets knocked up tomorrow in New Jersey, there is no shortage of clinics that she can go to, especially those being sponsored by Planned Parenthood, which, by the way, are subsidized with tax dollars. Max won't tell you that either because that would require Max to do some work, right? Or some actual research, you know? And it doesn't require him leaving his house, which he rarely ever does. But it will require Max to do some work and some research on the topic. There's no shortage of clinics here in New Jersey where a woman, if she wants to terminate her pregnancy, can do so, even very far along in the pregnancy. Okay. Here in New Jersey, right? And we see it all the time on social media. Okay. The amount of drunken escapades that women all over New Jersey engage in, right? Hey, listen, folks, it's the NFL. NFL season is well underway. So whether you're watching Thursday night football, out on Friday, Saturday night with the girls, brunching with the girls on Sunday, or going out for Sunday fun day, and you're out in your drunken debauchery, ladies, guess what? When you wake up Monday morning, in many instances, next to guys you don't want to wake up next to, okay, guess what? You can go to Dwayne Reed, you can go to Walgreens or CVS, and you can buy a Plan B. It's about a little over $40. I know because I've had to buy them. Okay. So I know what they look like. And you don't need a prescription, and you don't need, some consent or anything. You can just go buy it there. All right. So this idea that a woman's reproductive rights are being infringed upon in New Jersey, that is nonsense. That is outright bull. You know what? I won't say because I'm a gentleman and this is a family show. Okay. Now, whatever goes on in Kentucky, Tennessee, Texas, Florida, and I'm tired of talking about this because it seems like all the insufferable feminists, all the cat ladies that smell of cat piss in New Jersey, we all know who you are, right? I know who you are. I don't have to name you all right? I don't have enough fingers and toes to name you all, but you know who you are. You'll still bitch and moan about reproductive rights, okay? The Dobbs decision again, and this is not law school, but the Dobbs decision last summer, folks, all it did was relegate the case and the concept of abortion back to the states. Okay. So if you're so concerned about women's rights in Tennessee and how they're infringed upon and how they don't have the same rights as New Jersey, ladies, do me a favor. Get your ass to the airport, leave New Jersey. I would love to see how many of you leave and go campaign in Tennessee, Kentucky, Texas, Missouri. But here in New Jersey, organizations like Planned Parenthood are trying to manipulate you by telling you and sending out mailers that abortion's on the ballot. No, it's not. Again, ladies, after your usual drunken escapades on the weekends, guess what? You need to get a Plan B, not a problem in New Jersey. You need to terminate a pregnancy, not a problem. This hysteria is nauseating already. You need to get over it. And again, Max Pizarro enabling someone like Andy Zwicker, who's being blatantly dishonest by telling constituents or whoever will listen that abortion is, no, it's not. Okay? Focus on the issue, folks, that matters. It's not pronouns, it's property taxes. Why are tolls still high? Why is the gas tax still in existence? Why is the budget once again getting fatter than the latest Victoria's Secret models out there modeling lingerie and underwear? Why isn't someone like Max Pizarro, the editor of Insider NJ, and all the other clowns in New Jersey media asking these questions? No, but they'd rather bloviate and they would rather prop up someone like Andy Zwicker, who's being blatantly dishonest here and saying that abortion's a big issue this election cycle. It's not. It's parental rights, it's spending, it's taxes. That's what matters. And you would think that someone like Max Pizarro, who's been in the business long enough, would write about that in a column. Instead of being a propagandist, which is what you live on, Max, try being a journalist. Wouldn't kill you. All right. And trust me, it would, I think, help out a lot of the readership too if you were just a little bit more honest. But that will require you, once again, hold on. That will require you having that 4-syllable word, integrity. We all know you don't have any, and it shows in the columns you write. Speaking about lacking integrity, folks, you know what I'm talking about. Tommy Moran with NJ.com and the Star Ledger. And Tom Moran this past weekend, oh my God, this past week, you got to love Tom Moran, the virtue signaling that he engages in on a weekly basis. And you know what's funny about NJ.com? They have the audacity to flood your inbox and say, please, can you give us $1 for NJ.com to help support responsible journalism and coverage? What's responsible about NJ.com? What, are you kidding me? I mean, folks, don't waste $1. Okay? Go buy a pack of gum. Actually, you can't even do that with inflation these days. Okay? Go to Barcade, play $1's worth of video games or something. That's a better use of your time and money and your data on your smartphone, your tablet, your Mac or PC than spending $1 for NJ.com or even trying to support nonsense coming from Tom Moran. But speaking of the regular nonsense from Tommy, writes a column here which is hysterical, talking about Trump is trying to Yes, what is it here? To silence Chris Christie. Don't let him. Right? I just think that's funny. Right? So, of course, Tommy starts his usual, like you read Tom Moran's columns, it's like, it's like that's reading Tom Moran. Like when you read this, like just put it by your pillow and be like, okay, because that's all it's good for. Let's be honest. Okay. Tommy wants to believe, for those who would love to see Chris Christie sink his fangs into Donald Trump's hide, it's been a frustrating primary campaign with Trump skipping the debates. Christie has been reduced to shadowboxing with the supporting cast, which is, by the way, clearly more qualified than him to be president. Starting with Nikki Haley, starting with Ron DeSantis, even Vivek Ramaswamy is even more qualified than Chris Christie. But Tommy won't tell you that because, again, that would require Tom to have, wait for it, integrity. You know what I'm saying? So, again, as you read this, as you continue to read this nonsense here, he goes on to say, no, Christie's not going to win the nomination, and he's smart enough to know that, no matter what he says. But he could fatally weaken Trump by convincing even a small portion of Republicans to abandon ship. If 2024 is another nail-biter, that small margin could tip the election and save American democracy from ruin. What exactly is in peril when it comes to American democracy, Tom? The idea that we have illegals flooding our border, right? That should worry you. That's a concern about ruining American democracy. All these illegals flooding across the southern border that the president, who's clueless, his vice president was even more clueless, haven't even addressed, right? And neither of you, right? Because you think what you think is going to ruin American democracy is really funny, because this tsunami of illegals and migrants coming in, that has a bigger chance of ruining American democracy than anything you are afraid of. But more on Tommy later. And that the cult, he says, is trying to stifle him, right? So I'm not going to read you everything here, but he's really, really funny here about, what he's trying to tell you, everybody. And this is what's funny. Right? He goes to say, Christie swears he believes he has a path to victory, even though Trump crushes in every poll with an average of 58% support. Some polls say that about half of that is soft support, which Christie latches onto for hope, quote, if I can dent him in New Hampshire, which you're not going to, Chris, I hate to break it to you, we'll have a whole new ballgame. And of course, Tom, in his usual sanctimony and his usual virtue signaling nonsense, ends the column this way. You don't have to believe that to send him $1. You just have to answer this question. Are we better off with Christie on that stage, taking his swings or not? To me, it's not a close call, which I think is really, really hysterical, right? Folks, the fact that Tom Moran would support someone like Chris Christie, who he spent years vilifying in his columns, right? When he was governor. Now, all of a sudden, Chris Christie is a viable candidate. Tom, you're not fooling anybody. Speaking about not fooling anybody, another nonsensical attempt at editorializing by Tom Moran, right? Talks about Tom Malinowski. And to stop Tom Kean Jr., Tom Malinowski needs to jump into the race. Right? So this is, I'm not going to read you this entire thing here. But what's really, really funny is that he talks about Tom Kean Jr., that he won the 2022 race because of that name and lasting affection for his father, former New Jersey Governor Tom Kean. But the dad was a moderate Republican, a gentleman inclined to find bipartisan consensus, which you have no interest in even seeking because you're so far left, you can't even see straight. Basically the opposite of Jim Jordan. This time around, it won't be hard for Democrats to draw a bright red line between father and son. Well, that's not really true, Tom. But again, your blatant dishonesty is really coming out through your pores. So he talks about, for example, so far 2 Democrats have jumped in, and neither has any experience in elective office. One is Jason Blazakis, a State Department expert on terrorism who's virtually unknown in New Jersey. The other is Sue Altman, a firebrand activist who is famous in political circles for her willingness to bang heads with powerful players, including Republicans like Chris Christie and Democrats like George Norcross, the party boss based in Camden. I'll never forget that day that Altman was hauled out of a Senate hearing room by state police in 2019 as she led a protest against Norcross and the lavish tax breaks that he and his allies won in return for investments in Camden. Right? Goes on to say Altman, who played pro basketball in Europe in her day, wrestled with the burly troopers who held each arm, falling down at Norcross's feet as he waited to testify. It was a thuggish moment, an affront to free speech. Well, Tom, this is the thing. If you're going to disrupt a public meeting and be disorderly and be rambunctious, that's what's going to happen. Okay? Like, I've known enough to go to public meetings, council meetings, and when the public portion is available for 5 minutes, I know how to conduct myself. If other people can't do that, well, then security has to come in to restrain them. That's what happened. If you watch the footage, that's what happened. So again, Tom being blatantly dishonest, right? And Alma was not going down quietly. And this is the one that really touches my heart. Oh, baby. Oh, I admit I've had a soft spot for her ever since. Really? Tom, it's funny what you have a soft spot for, right? I'm not going to continue sort of reading this column, obviously, as he makes it a point to, engage in martyrism, right? In the column here, also talking about, as they say, the race itself. But folks, this is the thing. Tom Moran, like NJ.com and all its editorialists, will continue to blatantly lie to you. Am I particularly pleased with Tom Kean Jr.? Not always. I know there's all disarray right now in the House of Representatives in electing the speaker. Where Tom Kean Jr. stands, we'll see. Okay? But the idea that Tom Kean wants to vilify him and paint U.S. Representative Tom Kean Jr. as like this sort of MAGA cultist, that's just not true. It just isn't. But again, this fixation, this obsession that Tom Moran has with the 45th president is pretty nauseating. And the fact that he somehow puts the 46th president on a pedestal when there's every metric available to Tom. And I get it. Listen, Tom, I get it. We're all going to get to that age where cognitively, things aren't really functioning too well up here. And I get it. You're in your early 80s and things, you're not as sharp as you used to be. I get all that. We'll all get there, right? We'll all get to that age and we'll all sort of struggle with some sort of cognitive ability. There isn't one metric, Tommy, that you can give readers and viewers alike about Joe Biden deserving another term. Do I have my concerns with the 45th president ultimately winning the primary and being his opponent in a potential rematch? Sure. But again, at the end of the day, folks, when it comes to good economic policies, which is what existed between 2017 to 2020, right? Criminal justice reform, the nomination of judges, good judges, which is why we have a 6-3 majority in the Supreme Court, and they've ruled correctly on cases, the Dobbs decision, Second Amendment issues, right? The outcry about LGBT rights being infringed upon, which they're not. That's not what that court case said. Or affirmative action. These are all things, folks, that remind us of a time when America was better. But Tom will tell you that. Because Tom would rather virtue signal and make sure we have a lesbian in every cabinet position and that the alphabet mob is being acquiesced to. And that somehow a guy like Joe Biden, who's asleep probably more than half the day, somehow deserves a second term. But Tom Moran will try to sell you on that next year. Trust me when I tell you. Okay? I don't read Tom Moran. I don't subscribe to NJ.com. I don't follow them on social media. Why? Why waste my data on that? So I get sent columns and excerpts about things. Folks, if anyone really is someone to be listened to during an election cycle, whether it's now in 2023 or in 2024 or in 2025, folks, it's not Tom Moran. When has he ever been good to listen to other than his pontificating and his virtue signaling and his bloviating? Folks, I can't name a time. And let's be honest, neither can Tom Moran. Tommy, do better. I know later, you're in late stages of life. Do better, bro. Because again, if you're trying to help NJ.com to convince people, oh my God, please give me $1. Give me $1 to NJ.com to fund us. Folks, Tom Moran's the wrong messenger. If I'm going to give $1 to something, it's not NJ.com. And certainly someone like Tom Moran isn't helping their case either. And those are my final thoughts. Folks, before we call it a night here, as a reminder, as you can see, I'm rocking that pink, and so is Jersey First. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and without a doubt here at Jersey First TV, we are committed to partnering and supporting the American Cancer Society. And speaking of supporting the American Cancer Society, ladies and gentlemen, this Thursday night at the world-famous Lolita's, located on River Road in North Bergen, New Jersey, is the 2023 edition of a Professor's Quest to Safe Breasts. Joining me that evening will be my amazing co-host, the gorgeous Christina Kostovsky, the beautiful Sandra Ramirez, the absolutely stunning Courtney Gilroy, the workaholic, and one of the hardest working people that I've ever met, Vladimir Carrero, and yours truly, will greet you upon arriving, folks, at Lolita's. A $20 suggested donation is what we would ask of you upon arriving. We'll have wonderful raffles, happy hour specials all evening long. You can still book a table for dinner. Obviously, these specials will be throughout the evening, folks. And we're doing our part because, again, for over 100 years, the American Cancer Society has been working hard with communities all across this country to bring awareness about breast cancer and all forms of cancer, but now more than ever during Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It affects women and men alike, folks. And while a lot of positive changes and advancements have been made, folks, a lot is still required to overcome breast cancer once and for all. So we're asking you to join us this Thursday night. It's going to be beautiful weather in the 70s. Bring a jacket. It might get a little crisp. We'll have the outside patio. We'll have great photo opportunities, excellent networking opportunities, as a matter of fact, folks. Realtors, bankers, all types of local professionals will be coming to a Professor's Quest to Save Breast coming up this Thursday night, starting at 7 p.m., folks. Again, all proceeds will benefit the American Cancer Society and making strides against breast cancer. Folks, together, let's do our part, and we can defeat breast cancer once and for all. I'll see you this Thursday night, folks, for a beautiful Thursday evening with the weather. And folks, forget about other events out there. I mean, again, listen, we want to help the cause. There's some other events locally. They're not worth your time, and neither is the venue. I'll leave that up to you to guess who I'm talking about. But in any event, folks, join us for a Professor's Quest to Save Breast on this Thursday night, October the 26th, starting at 7 p.m. We'll be partying all throughout the evening, rocking that pink, and we'll hopefully do our part to defeat breast cancer once and for all. And that's our show for this week. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank our great guest, Chris Russell, Republican strategist and state Senate candidate in LD19, Maria Garcia, for an absolutely wonderful double main event. Folks, hey, I love how much you support all of us on social media. Check us out on all of our social media platforms. Again, make sure you like us on Facebook. Make sure, obviously, you follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And where we get your podcasts on Spotify or SoundCloud, download Jersey First TV. And, of course, take it with you on YouTube. Click the subscribe button, and you'll be automatically enrolled to Jersey First and all the great programming brought to you, once again, folks, by the dream team of journalism in the Garden State. Yes, you guessed it. It's Jersey First TV. Brand new episodes of the Nader Narrative premiere every Thursday, hosted by the just outright impressive Elizabeth Nader, and brand new episodes of Bridging the Gap with AJ Melillo and Seema Rumbola also premiere on Thursday. You want to check them out as well. And of course, brand new episodes of Real Talk premiere every Monday Night Live at either 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Special programming, you know, folks, next Monday night at 6 p.m., a triple main event, a stacked card, as they say here on the program. Coming up, we will have Assembly candidate Marilyn Colon, council candidate Mike Connors, and mayoral candidate in the city of Kearney, Sydney Ferrara. Join us here, folks. 3 guests, a triple main event. You don't want to miss out on that. Mark it on your calendars for next Monday night, October the 30th. Folks, it'll be on Mischief Night, the night before Halloween. Who knows? Maybe I'll be rocking a Halloween costume. You'll have to tune in next Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, folks, for Real Talk via Jersey First TV. And, of course, what we're doing every single week here, ladies and gentlemen, we're educating and empowering residents everywhere with thought-provoking content, stimulating conversations, and quite frankly, the best journalism you can find anywhere. You're welcome, America. And always remember, ladies and gentlemen, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's always Real Talk right here with Jersey First TV. I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, top 50 Latino, as voted on by the Latino Spirit Online magazine, and also the United States Latino Affairs Initiative, as well as, well, folks, you can see it with a great traffic every single week, all organic, the People's Choice and the People's Voice. And, of course, you see it every week, folks, the most handsome face that runs the place. It's me, Fernando Uribe. Folks, enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy. I look forward to seeing many of you this Thursday night for a Professor's Quest to Save Breasts at the world-famous Lolitas in North Bergen, New Jersey. And, of course, folks, enjoy all the great Halloween parties this weekend. Please party responsibly. And always remember, if you can't be good, be bad, baby. We'll see you next week here, next Monday Night Live at 6 p.m. Eastern Time for the latest edition of Real Talk via Jersey First TV. And thanks for stopping by.